We are gearing up for the closing ceremony of RightsCon 2025 here in Taipei, but we have a few more amazing people to bring to you on This Week in Cyberspace. Our next guest is Gbenga Sesa. He's the Executive Director of Paradigm Initiative. It's a non-profit organisation that works to connect underserved young Africans with digital opportunities and ensures the protection of their online rights. Good on you, Gbenga. That's
Thank you.
such a great life
Mission.
Yeah.
How are you going with it? How's it going?
I mean, when we started, we thought it was. I always joked about running myself out of a job and finishing very quickly. But the more you do, then the more you realize, oh, people are still giving birth, people are growing up, and so you have more and more. You want
Damn.
10 million, and now they're 15 million. Like, why,
Wow.
guys? You know,
Can we
so-
just stop? 15
Nell
million,
and I
that's a
would
lot
be
of people.
supportive of an end to that procreation, but go on.
It's way too easy for people. Yeah, so election monitoring with digital technologies is a big concern of yours because, of course, one of the great, I guess, tenets of democracy is free elections, but so often they are interfered with by
Absolutely.
governments.
And
How is it
others-
in Africa?
You know, we called last year the year of elections.
Yes.
But I think that was a mistake.
Really?
Because
Yeah.
this year we have more elections,
Yeah.
There's
actually.
more.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's more. So I think we should just call it the decade of elections.
Which in a way is not a bad thing because elections means democracy and
Yes.
democracy
Absolutely.
means participation. We just want to make, we want them to work.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing is that while on one hand we're seeing a lot more interference, on the other hand, we're also seeing a lot more interest. I mean, people talk about the fact that we have a lot more debate now. And I'm like, well, more debate means more interest because the opposite of if you're not interested, it's not like you're going to say I'm not interested. You're just going to keep quiet.
You're
And
not
when you
going to
keep quiet, you're not
participate.
going to participate. So
Yeah.
I think we're in a good place, seeing a lot more interest. It may be polarized and all that, but it also means that people who didn't share their views before are now sharing their views, and now we know exactly what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
There are not too many unknowns.
Are there more candidates as well? Are there more people
Of
stepping up
course,
to
of
represent?
course. People, a lot more candidates. And I mean, for many countries across the continent, they've also seen, so it's not just about just power anymore. It's about power. It's about access to power, even when you leave power. And it's also about resources. And, so there's a lot more interest. We used to sing a song when I was much younger that, if you have a good education, then your shoes will sound really loud. And, these days I joke with colleagues and even policymakers that, school is not the route to that power anymore. It's just political office. And that has also created a new generation of people who don't care about the issues, but care about the power.
Yeah.
And that is dangerous.
That is
And
problematic, yeah.
Is that's let's just unpack that for a second. So you think that there's more demand for like unilateral power? Like, do you think that is it anything to do with like digitalization or the internet? Do you think there's any sort of connection between, I don't know, is it celebrity? I don't know what it is, but yeah, talk to us about that.
Celebrity. That's I mean, you hit the spot with the word celebrity. So many years ago, if there was a celebrity, they would have to be really popular. They would have had to do a few things, maybe be in a few movies, have a
Sing.
few hit songs. But now you could literally go on a social media platform and do something silly
Yeah.
Yeah.
and immediately become a celebrity.
Yeah.
And so we have new forms of power that people are not prepared for. Because initially you had to do things over a period of time to get power and for you to be a celebrity. Now you can be a celebrity in one day.
Doing something
All
silly.
you need is virality.
Yeah,
And that
virality.
then comes with a new demand for. So people see that. They see that, oh, this guy, you were my friend yesterday. Today, I write one tweet to you, someone responds, and my entire timeline is flooded, and they want to have what you have. And that is also going into the political space. You see some, you know, somebody is somewhere becoming president and wielding power unchecked, and you're tempted to say, wait a second, I could do that. I could wave a magic wand and make everything happen. So I think we have a new form of seeking power, not for any reason, but
Just
just for
celebrity.
in itself, that okay, I'm
It lasts
powerful.
15 minutes, though. I
Yeah.
mean, or is it 15 seconds?
Some are more entrenched
But-
than others.
But
Yeah.
but do you think that and it, we're talking about politics and democracy and technology and power? Do you think that there's a greater recognition of young people across the continent, or maybe we just talk about Nigeria, where they see like power through democracy, like where you like political power? I mean, and I mean without
Yeah.
corruption. Like I mean where like
Oh.
you have because I know
Democratic power.
democratic power.
So, in two different areas. So one is you see a lot of movements of young people basically saying, wait a second, anything for us, about us, without us is not genuine.
Yeah.
And you see that, movement. For example, in Nigeria, you
Yeah.
have the not so young to lead movement, not too young to run movement. And people actually run for political office
Wow.
with that slogan. And
Is that good? That sounds good.
it's great,
Yeah.
actually. I
Yeah.
How young
what
is
people
not too
do
young?
when they get political power
Not too
is
young
a
to
different
run.
thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
the whole essence that you're not too young to make decisions. And the whole idea is you're not too young to vote. They come
That's
to
right.
court you for your vote. So you're not
Yes.
too young to actually
To
hold
represent.
office. And then there is the second side, which I don't have intentions to run for political office, but the other side I
just
feel
said that.
very strongly about. And
Yeah.
that is for you to be able to use other forms of power to hold people in power accountable.
Yeah.
And that is so much easier with technology right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One is you can be anonymous and hold people to power. The other is you may not have to be anonymous, but you can use various channels. I probably will need to pay a lot of money to get on certain TV channels to get certain audiences. But I'm here with you. This is digital. This is going across multiple spaces, and this is digital
You should
power.
see our reach and and our budget. It's amazing. It's basically the less budget we have,
The more reach we have.
the more reach.
But speaking about budgets, I'm wondering how
Yeah.
the impact of the removal of UNAID is having
USAID,
is
yeah.
having on democracy.
Talk to us
Can
about
you
that.
see any impact already?
We can immediately.
Yeah.
And I think the first is the fact that a lot of people suspected this was going to happen, but no one expected the insanity of saying, you know what, it stops now.
Yeah.
And even the things we owe you contractually, we're not going to pay it. Now, that is not normal.
No.
And I think that for a second, I thought it was a 90-day problem. Then
Yeah.
at some point, I was like, oh, it's a 4-year problem. But right now, I think it's a long-term problem. And the immediate impact is visible, not just in the lives that it touches, but also in the confusion of being able to, if you're a non-profit organization that is doing great work, right now you are not only thinking of implementing the work, you're also thinking of sustainability. You're thinking of keeping the lights
Survival.
on. Your survival, actually, not even sustainability. You're thinking of survival. How do I keep the lights on tomorrow? How do I make sure I pay salaries? I was joking with someone yesterday that today, yesterday was the 26th, and that's the day we pay salaries. And
Okay.
it was a joke. I wasn't saying that because I
Serious
felt
joke.
pressure, but right now it's not a joke for many people to say that this is payday. So there's the immediate impact on the work. And there is also the concern that people have that, okay, if for any reason this, freeze is reversed, what does that mean for how careful you have to be in terms of defining the work that you do? We do inclusion work. Inclusion is a banned word. People do gender work. Gender is, the NSF has a whole list of words you shouldn't use anymore. Inclusion, information integrity. Funders are pulling out of certain topics. Information integrity is not something you should be ashamed to discuss. If there's any time we should have difficult conversations, it's now. But people are now being careful because one, you don't want to be a target. Two, you're like, this keyword shows up in this proposal, it may not be funded. And there's nothing as dangerous as that level of censorship.
Yeah. Self-censorship.
Self-censorship.
Yeah. Really impacting the work that you're doing right now.
Gbenga, with this, it's funny. Sad. that we have heard
Mm,
this
mm,
in a number of conversations that we've had about people. I've never heard this, the fear of using particular language,
mm.
like the sort of the power of like the euphemism which
Yeah,
people are
yeah,
having to
yeah,
employ in order to avoid persecution,
yeah.
prosecution, loss of
Mm,
funding, etc. So, coming back to our favorite 1984, which Nell and I have been quoting throughout the week, like this is ministry of truth kind of stuff. This
yep,
is this is like Orwellian
yep,
and
Newspeak.
yep,
Kafkaesque
Yeah.
yep,
and
yep.
all of that. And so what is the digital rights community which is gathered here
Mm,
today? And you've been in a lot of
mm,
meetings with
mm,
other your colleagues and with funders.
yeah.
What are the people saying? Like what are they, and what are they proposing if it is the 26th or the
Yeah,
27th and
yeah.
they don't have the money to pay staff
So there are people who have shut down.
already?
Oh yes, I mean there are people who have shut down. So someone mentioned to me, for example, that they're not here for work; they're here for group therapy.
Oh wow, yeah.
And I would, on a normal day I would say, "Oh, guy, you're funny," and we hug and all that. But I know he's not kidding;
No.
he's serious
Yes.
because he said that and walked away.
Yeah.
Literally.
Did you give him a hug?
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
It's
You
we're all
have
in
to.
this
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, two things for me. One is there are conversations that we were having about collaboration before
Mhm.
that were theoretical, but are
Mm,
now very practical.
that's good.
We
Yeah.
survive together. When we're choosing the theme for our annual forum this year, we chose the phrase digital Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Ubuntu is a Zulu word that means I am because you are,
Mm.
popularized by the great Nelson Mandela.
Mhm.
Ubuntu. That Ubuntu concept
Yeah.
is the reality of our time. It is not theoretical that we need to work together, we need to share resources to survive before we can thrive. But if there was anything that could shock us into doing that, it is this madness going on right now. But on the other side of this is also the opportunity that we have
Mm-hmm.
to listen to those who have had the same lived experience for a
Mm-hmm.
long time. All of the things you're saying with, oh, Donald Trump said this, this video was shared and this is making him look like an emperor and things like that. This is my lived experience. This is the
Mm.
work I do. I work with dictators who don't care.
Yeah.
And so I was sharing with a few colleagues that this is the best time for you to listen to people who have handled and have experience in dealing with dictators.
Yes.
One of the things you don't want to do when you're dealing with a dictator is keeping them in the news all the time.
Yeah.
Because this is why they do what they do.
Yeah. How do we get him out of the news? It's like it's
one
the
in
greatest
two
show on earth.
articles, one in two stories is all Trump, 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 Trump,
Yeah.
Trump. It's like
Unfortunately, and
keep him out of the news.
this is what he
Deprive
wants.
him of his
Oxygen.
We're not
Mm.
having him on this podcast,
No, he won't come.
no matter how many times he asks
If
us.
you already
Because,
Or
invited
how
him,
much
I
money
want
he
to ask you,
offers
disinvite him right
us.
away.
go away.
And
Yeah.
You're not getting a seat.
That's such a great
yeah,
lesson to
yeah.
learn. What else
Yeah. What else you got?
can inform this moment in history?
I think this is a moment for us to practice less of I want to be careful with the word I use because I don't want to call it showmanship. But I think that anyone who is a change maker has a very strong tendency to be very self-focused and
Hmm.
selfish because, to be honest, for you to have a vision that you can do something, you must
Yeah.
feel a certain
And
type
an
of
ego.
power. There's an ego.
Yeah.
And this is the moment where we want to first of all look in the mirror and be sure that anything I do is not making anyone feel smaller.
Yeah.
And this is really important at this time because there are people who are not feeling small because of what you said, but all simply because of the fact that they compare themselves with you and they feel bad. So when people ask me, "Oh, is Paradigm Initiative affected?" I typically don't say if pain is affected or not. What I talk about is the sector, and I'm doing that deliberately, not because I'm trying to be humble, but because in reality, I want to first of all zoom out and look at, okay, how are we all affected, so that when I'm saying, "Oh, we are fine," I am not inadvertently hurting someone who is thinking, what has he done that I haven't done that is fine and I'm not fine? So I think this is a time to be more, the word is empathy, but it expressed in many ways. To first of all, own your privileges
Mm.
and realize that, you know what? maybe we saw this coming, we prepared a few things, we diversified, or we don't even get US funding, and so we're not as affected. But to understand that there are others who have literally built their entire structure around opportunities, either direct or indirect, that come through some of the parts that are now blocked. So I think apart from listening to people, it's also just, pausing and realizing that I have a certain privilege, and how do we then use this privilege to help other people? One of the best things that happened when, you know, um, we saw this EO and all of the impact was, I called someone and I said we need to talk, and he said, "Oh yes, I actually wanted to call you," and we were both saying exactly the same thing. What we said was we need to call everyone who does work around our sector in our region, and no agenda, just have a conversation and
Yeah.
say, how are you doing
Yeah.
as a person?
Are you
You're the
okay?
leader of the organization, and many times you switch into recovery mode. How do I raise the funding? How do I pay the salary? So let's check with you first, because if you are not fine,
Yeah.
it will affect everyone else.
How many calls did you make?
Ah, gosh.
15.
Endless calls. So on the first day, I think I must have been on at least four unscheduled calls
Yeah.
and scheduled another, five or
Yeah.
things like that, and emails. But that was really good, because what it showed me was every time you talk to someone, they were not thinking of themselves alone, which was even why I was encouraged to reach out and say, how are you doing? Because everyone was thinking, oh my God, this event that we're all supposed to meet at, they may not host the event, or people may not travel for this. And I was like, calm down. We will get to that. But how are you doing?
Yeah.
Because it's also when dictators attack, it is very clear that they often go for your mind, not just your hands.
So, how are you doing?
I think I'm better now, knowing that a few people are getting better, and also that we're all all beginning to talk about the way out and how to work together. So it feels much better, and I have time off planned. That
Yeah,
always
good.
helps.
Yes, self care.
Yeah.
You're talking with people here about a path forward, how to work together,
Yeah,
what kind of opportunities
yeah,
are there.
yeah.
What are you seeing? What are some of those paths?
I'm saying collaboration may be a noun, as we used to say it
Yeah.
before, but now it's a verb. It's an action word
Got to
now.
do it.
How do we? If you had 1,000, I have 1,000, and we need 1,500 to do something. Now is the time to put our thousands together and use 1,500, and the balance 500 we can use to do something else. This is the practical moment for collaboration, for seeking resources together, and to shift from "you're my competition"
Yeah.
to "you may be my competition, but Ubuntu. You
Yeah.
survive, I survive."
Wonderful.
It's a beautiful mantra, really, from Mandela there.
Oh yeah.
It's a mantra for us as
Yeah.
well. Um,
We wanted to mention Nigeria's Cybercrime Act just briefly.
15 seconds.
15 seconds. Where is it at the moment? I mean, and does it have enough momentum to go forward?
It's the Cybercrime Act has been passed. It's law. It's been abused. We are challenging it. We're now at the Supreme Court. We're waiting for a date, but we're glad that even citizens that didn't care before are now talking
I
about it.
understand. Yeah, congratulations to you. Benga, we will see you online at some point again for sure. And we've really appreciated the leadership that you've provided, plus
Thank you.
also the collegiality to within your country, within your region, and globally,
And the wisdom.
and the wisdom. I'm going to listen to this. This is the first one I was thinking. I was like, I'm going to listen to this one again because
There's a lot
there's
here.
a lot in there, and
Yeah.
it's spiritual as much as it is political. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.